2 sons-in-law and 4 grandchildren. As you know, if you are out and about, Damon is involved in many local clubs and boards and enjoys spending time with family and friends on his downtime. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Damon Alvey, Superintendent of Vermillion School District.
Thanks, Kevin. Good afternoon, everybody. It's my pleasure to, of course, get a chance to come before you again and tell you a little bit about the district. The information that we have today in front of you will be information you'll see coming out in the next couple weeks in our annual report. That's typically where I come in about this time and share some of the data about our school district. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that we've seen in our district in terms of growth and maybe challenges we're facing. And then we'll end with some questions for you, from the group. So please feel free to jump in anytime. Just some quick review of some of the information that you've seen about our district. We have a fairly good sized district, 179 square miles, encompassing Clay and Union counties. Our enrollment this year is 1,395 kids, K through 12. We're up 50 students this year from last year. We're up 87 from the year before, and we're up about 200 in the last 6 years. So that's bucking the trend of most schools in South Dakota, except for the urban areas around Sioux Falls. But it's a great place to be, and the fact that we're growing isn't attributed to any one particular thing. We do have, obviously, USD brings us some folks. There's the industry in town that has had some expansion, or some people that have come back and forth. But what we're seeing some of is some Vermillionites are just coming home. People that have now got grown children, or children that are school age, have gone off and done other things, and now they're coming back to their home communities for whatever reason. We are seeing also people from other states that I think that are trying to come to South Dakota for many great reasons, but over the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of out-of-state infusion into our school district, which is great. Most of our class sizes, our board works really hard to keep our junior K through 2 grades below 20 if possible, so we're usually averaging around 17 or 18 there. We feel like that influence, that personal connection with kids is really important, and so we really work hard to try to keep those class sizes small and more intimate for the kids and for the teachers. They start to expand in grades 3 through 5. Those could be 21, 22 on average, but right now we're sitting close to 25 in all of those sections there. And then, of course, 6 through 12 vary. We have a gigantic 132, I think, in our freshman class moving up from the middle school. So that just really has flooded our high school, which is really good. However, that does allow or force us sometimes maybe we have to curtail some of the curriculum offerings, or we can only offer one section of something, and so kids have to make choices sometimes to take something next year that they would have liked to have taken this year. And but typically most of our classes are still around 25 in a typical classroom at the high school. Our free and reduced programs, we're sitting about 32% right now. We expect that to grow. What we do find is, 1/3 of the students that attend our school have some sort of financial concern that they have to deal with. And of course, we still have those normal programs, free and reduced programs from the federal government for breakfast and lunch programs. What gave us a little bit of heartburn this year was the fact that the last 2 years, the federal government had funded all breakfast and lunch programs across the nation for all schools, for every student, regardless of your income level, which really was a great program because it didn't ask people to come up with dollars on their own. And during COVID, of course, all the things that everybody experienced there, whether it was moving or losing a job or whatever might have impacted them financially, was addressed through the free and reduced lunch program. Everybody qualified. This year, last spring, they decided at the federal level not to do that and return to the pre-COVID free and reduced lunch program, which is you have to qualify for those services by income-based. So a student and a family has to apply for that benefit from the school district. Now, if you're already part of other benefits from the state, like you're part of the food stamp program or some of those programs, you automatically qualify for free and reduced school breakfast or lunch. But I do think that there's a number of folks, I think, across this state, or this city, state, and country, that just barely don't make the qualifications for a free and reduced program, and they're struggling right now with all the high inflation and costs of things to provide those programs for their kids, the lunch programs. Fortunately, we have things such as our Vermillion Public School Foundation, who offers us dollars through our angel funds to help supplant and make sure kids don't go hungry or can be offered seconds if they fall into this category. So that's the beauty of our school district. Last year's district attendance rate was 94%, which is great. However, the 6% there is a little misleading because that 6% doesn't seem like a big number. But of those 6% that make up that number, some of those kids would miss up to 40 days of school individually. So attendance is something I'll talk a little bit later as a concern of our district. But overall, our attendance rate as a district is pretty solid. The graduation rate last year dipped as well. Normally we're at 90% or higher for our graduation rate. Last year we had a small graduate class. As you can see, they're at 67. And when you have 67 seniors coming through and 1, 2, 3, or 4 of them might need to come to summer school to finish up their high school credits, we'll let them walk in the ceremony if they're within 2 credits of graduating, because they can make that up that summer. And some do, and sometimes they have 3, 4 credits that they're supposed to make up, and some of those students never return. They've turned 18 and they've decided to go on. So that number is something that we take very seriously and want to continue to see improve. Some staff information. We have about 119 certified instructors in the district. That's up about 15 from the last couple years. Most of that is in relations to the federal dollars that we got from the Esser funds. I'll talk about that shortly. But we have grown in our, obviously in our district by nearly 200 students in 6 years. And so we've had to do some catch up to make sure that we stay within the ratios we prefer, as well as the priorities of the school board on that. Our average teacher salary is about $49,000 based on our average years of experience, but our starting salary is at $44,000. Teachers with advanced degrees, about half of the teachers that are employed in our district have an advanced degree of some kind, which is really outstanding. We believe that those extra degrees give you extra skills and extra experiences, which will be good for our kids in the classroom. So we continually encourage our staff to go back and get more education when they can. Obviously, to stay certified, they're required to have that, but they're not required to have it in a certain field that eventually leads to another advanced degree. The state asks us and tracks our qualified instructors. Right now we're at 100% qualified, highly qualified, which basically means the people who are in those, the classrooms are in the positions that they had gone and gotten their education for. There are times and places where schools will take a agronomist from an ag profession and bring them into the school district to be a science teacher, for example. They can go back and get an alternative education certificate because they already have a bachelor's degree in agronomy. They can take specific education-related courses and become a teacher, a science teacher in the school based on their agronomy background. But we don't have anybody in that position this year. We have about 28 paraeducators in the district. Those are the people that work with some of our most needy students. We have 9 administrators and 5 board members. Some information about our students, some things that we're pretty proud of. We have a very robust curriculum in our district. This community has been blessed with having a university and other, promotions in our community that people value those things. So we have 37 students that are involved with our advanced placement coursework. Some of that's through dual credit type activities, but some of it's through Mount Marty, where we can have congruent credit. We teach it in our building, but that teacher is also an instructor for Mount Marty, so the kids are getting credit for us and Mount Marty, basically the same as dual credit. Our dual credit courses, on a typical year, we offer between 3 and 7 different courses. It could be anything from government to calculus, algebra. Pre-calc is a popular one. Speech is probably our most popular. Some of our students take our dual credit online on a computer, go to study hall, they watch the modules and go and learn from there. Others will be actively on a Zoom with the teacher in a location. And others, in our particular case, with the benefit of having USD in our backyard, the USD professor comes to our classroom and we actually teach the USD curriculum in our building, so our students get that person in face-to-face. The Zoom classes and dual credit classes are are an advantage, and they're great, and we have a lot of students that take advantage of it. However, it's not for everyone, because it is a different level of rigor, and it's a different level if you're taking that over Zoom or during some sort of electronic form. Not all students learn best in that way. So the fact that we can bring speech, USD speech to our campus is quite amazing. Right now we have 51 of our students taking dual credit classes, juniors and seniors, which is great. For those of you who know about dual credit, our kids are earning college credit and high school credit, and they will earn it at a much reduced price than they would if they walked in as a freshman taking that class. Of last year's graduating seniors, about 84% of those students went on to some sort of post-secondary training, and they had over $1 million in offers, scholarship offers from different places. So they may not have taken the scholarship from SDSU, they took the USD scholarship, but the offers were over $1 million for those students, which is quite outstanding. It is a true testament to those students and their families, and really, quite honestly, our teaching staff, that those students are achieving at that level. Again, not only for our curriculum offerings do we have a robust, healthy curriculum offerings in the district, but our extracurricular is something that we're really proud of. If you're a student in our district and you want to find something to be a part of, you've got over 40 different things that you can be a part of. It might be an art club, like example. You might be out for football or basketball or track, part of the golf team. You might be out for show choir. You may be in the school play. Maybe you're out for SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions. You've heard our seniors talk about that. National Honor Society. The list is huge, and most of those positions are filled by staff within our district. That might be a coach or an advisor, but because of the sheer numbers, we value and need good folks from the community to step up and coach some of our activities or be an advisor for one of these many clubs that we have. So we want to thank all the people that contribute to that. And once again, the Vermillion Public School Foundation, Rotary, and others help fund some of the scholarships that our students earn during those times, as well as many out of the state and region type scholarships. State assessments, this is something that we're working on pretty diligently this year. We'll be preparing a discussion with our school board at our next meeting. The last 2 years, we've been hovering with everybody else right around the state average, which is not something that we're super proud of, because we feel we can be better than the state average. So right now we're working, last week, or 2 weeks ago, the school board gave the day off for our students to take the day off. Our staff met and did a data dig of all the student assessment data. And they'll meet again in October, here in the third week of October, to talk about, we know what the student data is, we know what some of the problems were on the assessments. Now what are we doing in curriculum to tie those two together and figure out why our students aren't achieving? Historically, math has been a struggle for South Dakota students in general. And so is that part of the assessment? Is it the way we're teaching? Is it the curriculum we're using? But we just know that it's an area we want to shine some light on and really dig into, because we want to get better at that area. Most of you know some things about our school budget. We've got approximately a $16 million school budget. This is the place it comes from is your property taxes. 51% of our revenue comes from your property taxes. Unfortunately, this year you did see an increase in those property taxes due to the bond that was passed last October for the new elementary school. So you probably noticed that. In my particular case, I noticed that it had gone up even some more based on some other things. The county has the ability to affect your taxes as well with tax increases for needs or opt-outs for them. And of course, naturally, the valuations in our community seem to be rising. So even if there were no bonds or opt-outs or other things in place from the school district or the county, you would probably have seen an increase in some fashion on your property taxes, just because the homes in Vermillion have continued to rise, which is a good thing. However, none of us like to pay more taxes. And then you'll notice that the remaining portions of that pie, most of it comes from our state revenue, comes from state influx of dollars from our Department of Education, and then we get about 13% of our income from the federal sources. And then how that is budgeted out, that big pie that we get all this money in, now we're cutting it up to pay for the services within the district. And you can see here that the bulk of our pie or our expenditures are people related. It's our staffing, salaries, and benefits. So, in this case, it's just under 60%. That's down this year compared to previous years. Normally, we're closer to about 70% of our budget, but we've had a lot of money influxed into our budget this year with the building of the new elementary school. So our purchase services at 11% is higher than normal. Purchase services are, if we're bringing in speakers or hiring professional services for things for our students, our architect fees, for example, for our new building, we've been paying on those now for this last 6-7 months. So that's a higher number than we normally would pay there. Supplies, about 10-11% of our budget. Equipment, about 10 or 11% of our budget. Pretty standard there. That pays for all the things that we do, all the electrical bills, the toilet paper, the new skid loader we would buy, whatever the equipment is needed for the district. And then the debt service is higher this year than it's been in a little recently because we're paying off on our bond. We have a 30-year bond, so our debt services will be there. We have always owned some debt in our district, whether it was capital outlay certificates for the new HVAC systems at the high school 7 or 8 years ago, or there was the theater project, 20 years ago. Those are debt services that we've collected and paid for over time. And sometimes they drop off and then we add something new on, which is what we did with the bond this year for the new elementary school. Some Esser expenditures. You'll hear me talk a little bit about Esser. That acronym really stands for the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief. It's the federal dollars that were assigned to school districts during the COVID years. It's a 3-year grant cycle that we were awarded approximately $4 million over 3 years. Well, we're into our 4th year because the first year they never really counted Essers. But this will all expire by 2024. But what we've done with that money, and it's being spent as we do these projects, we put new ionization in all of our buildings. Ionization was the latest technology that's supposed to basically kill 98% of the germs and viruses flowing through your air systems in your buildings. So we had a company come in and retrofit all of our HVAC systems in all of our buildings so that we would have the highest, best air quality that we could attain at the time. And so this is new technology in a lot of schools. Most hospitals use these types of technology for their buildings. We spent a considerable amount of our money to hire new staff or additional staff. We've used it for hiring a school nurse, an additional school nurse. We've added Title I teachers, which are the teachers that work with students that might be struggling in math or reading. We've added counseling positions, a behavior integrationist, and behavior room teachers, just to name a few of those. And what's going to be the challenge for the district is those are being paid from the Esser dollars that will run out within 2 years. The district will then have to decide and prioritize which of these can we afford to keep and how will we do so. Now with growing enrollment, we're paid for by students. So the fact that we've grown, we're gonna have additional dollars next year that we don't have this year based on our student enrollment and data, so that's good. However, we do know that we've got a lot of folks there that are doing great things, and we're gonna have to balance that in 2 years and figure out what we need to keep and how we're gonna keep all of it if we're gonna be able to do so. We are in the process of purchasing a minibus for the school district. We gave staff one-time bonuses. Our school board recognized, like many of you in your worlds, the stresses that COVID caused in our school district when we went remote, and then we had a remote and in-person model going on, and teachers were doing both. They were teaching to the computer to the 3 kids at home, plus the 22 kids in class. It was just a really challenging time from our custodians all the way up because of the things that were asked and required of the moment. And so our board recognized that and gave out one-time staff bonuses the last few years to recognize the efforts of our staff, which they appreciated, of course. Spent a considerable amount of money, as you can imagine, on PPE and mitigation supplies, anything from masks to COVID supplies, the testing materials. We gave out free tests the last 2 years to anybody in our district that needed them, as many as they needed. And we got a lot of that from the state, but some of those were purchased things. We improved our HVAC and chilling capacities at the high school for our auxiliary gym, wrestling rooms, the whole middle southwest side of the building. We upgraded those capabilities, which was much appreciated. Technology investments. We continue to be a one-to-one school for all of our kids, kindergarten through 12, which means every kid gets a device. And unfortunately, the devices have a lifespan and need to be replaced, but our district put a considerable effort into using Esser dollars from the feds, and we thought that was a really appropriate way to use education dollars to enhance the environment for our kids to take home with devices or use them in school. Other technology improvements we made was the lighting. We put all new LED lighting in the high school and the middle school. High school is probably 90% done, and the middle school is probably 10% done. As everybody's faced, we were supposed to have those both done this summer, but naturally with supply chain issues and work demands of the companies, they couldn't do that. But we will have the latest and greatest lighting for our kids, the best educational lighting for the needs of our learners in all of our buildings in the next couple months. That'll be complete. One of the big things we did was our extended school year opportunities. We hired our certified staff to return in the summer to work with kids. And then we offered parents the opportunity to send your kids to school during the summer. They can eat at school, they can get tutoring in school, whether it's math, reading, science, whatever their area of concern might be. And then we had that at every level from kindergarten on up. And we had good turnout, but unfortunately, not everybody that you want to see there could make it or be there. So we offered transportation for those folks. That helped some, but just like anything in life, you don't get everybody you want at all of those opportunities. And then an enhanced mentor program for our students. We're in the middle of that process right now, but trying to create an environment where kids feel good about adults in their life, and we try to connect them with adults that are outside of school. So business folks, Rotarians, whoever it might be. A little bit about our elementary school. Our project, of course, we're full steam ahead now. Houseman Construction is our construction manager at risk, and TSP is our architect. These are the folks that we started the process with and we've gained trust with, and they continue to work with us. We started work this summer with digging out that vast area at the middle school, which you've noticed just west of the middle school in Barstow Park, with a completion date of June of 2024. That gives us all of July to empty both Austin and Jolly and move them into the new facility and try to be ready for an August school start, 2024. The dirt work is mostly complete over there now. The grading and things are there. They will be bringing in a lot of dirt fill once the foundations and the things are set. Aggregate piers, which are relatively new construction techniques for creating footings in soft soil, were used. They put in 770 aggregate piers in that footprint of the school there, which is basically 16-foot tube on a backhoe that drills down into the soil, pulls out that circumference of about a foot, 16 feet down. They put rock in the hole, they pack it down and vibrate it, open it up, put more rock in, vibrate it down. And in theory, then all that rock is then pushed and expanded out, thus hardening the soil in a radius around the circle. So now 770 of those aggregate piers were placed at the middle school that now we will cut into the ground to put a foundation and footings in, which will start Monday. So you will start to see a lot of cement work moved over there. Some 200,000 tons of rock have gone into the ground over there. So it's just been really fascinating to watch, and it's pretty neat for our kids to get an opportunity to see it. And our partners at Houseman and TSP are going into the classrooms and sharing with kids, things that are happening at the construction site and giving them some walk-by tours. So they're going to get a chance to see this firsthand. If everything goes well, the footings will start right next to the middle school and work west. And then from there, they'll basically start with two big gigantic walls for the gymnasium, and then classroom and hallways and offices the further west. Hopefully by December, you'll start to see brick in a gymnasium wall starting to appear, which will be really cool. Now, this goes to that section that we talked about earlier about none of us wanting to pay more in taxes. This is where we want to, again, thank you for the investment of this school. It's costing the citizens of Vermillion about $156 per $100,000 of evaluation. So, obviously the more land or the more house value or whatever it is, you paid more than that. So this is another opportunity to say thank you for doing this. not only for all the things I talked about earlier about the overcrowding and the old buildings and things like that, but for the potential to see the good that this new school will bring in 2024. So again, thank you for that. And we're at a $36 million price tag. So we went out to bond at $26 million. We knew that it wasn't going to be built for $26 million at the time, but we had money in capital outlay reserves that we would dedicate towards that. Naturally, with probably the worst time in ever to be building anything, we're right in the middle of all these price influxes and things like that. But we're confident that with working with Houseman and TSP that we've got this at that $36 million price tag, and that we've got capital outlay certificates, our own reserves, and the bond that you help pass in place to fund that. So we're confident that with all the things that we're doing, this is the price tag we'll be paying. Just a couple more things, and then I'll take some questions from the audience. Challenges that we're facing as a really education across the entire country, and they're not any different here in Vermillion than they are in other places in the world, but maybe just different shades of gray here. One is workforce shortages. We continue to have to work really hard to fill our teaching positions. There's just not as many teachers as there once was, and the ones that are in the field have got some choices. They can say, well, I can drive a few miles and I can get to Sioux Falls, or I can go over to Nebraska and I can make more. I can drive 30 minutes to Sioux City and I can make more. So we have to compete with that, and that's really important for us to keep local people here and keep our classrooms full of great teachers. But that's also with custodians, that's with our para-educators. It's everything that you see in your worlds as well. Critical race theory and other topics. This is not such a hot topic in South Dakota as much as it is in other places in the world, but it does all get infused together. Sometimes you'll see something on the news of something wacky happening in a school on one of the coasts, and people will naturally think, well, that must be happening here. Well, most of it isn't. I can assure you that the things that are happening in some of the things you see on TV are not happening in South Dakota schools, and they're not happening in Vermillion. However, we're not immune from things happening in our district that might be challenges or things that people would wrinkle their nose at. So we are really in tune to listening to our folks, determining the values of our community, hiring people to do those jobs, and following the mission of the district, and creating policies to deal with that. So we see some of these things that you see on TV, but if you ever were to hear something that you were wondering about, or you have kids in the district and you're thinking, I need to talk to somebody about, our doors are always open, and we want to talk about what we do and how we do it so that we're completely transparent with you. Naturally, the political division in the country, that plays a role in education. We get used as pawns sometimes as educators in the nation get drug into discussions that probably really aren't our discussions. So we do our best to just make sure that we're focusing on the job at hand, which is teaching kids to be good thinkers, come to school, be good citizens. We're not here to indoctrinate anybody. We're not here to persuade you on this party or this particular issue. We're trying to create thinkers and kids that can make good judgment, make good decisions, can contribute to a good society. And sometimes we have to deal with political division and other things with that. Same with social media influence. That's probably one of the things that our kids at schools face more than we do as adults, but it's alive and well everywhere. We have kids that we have to deal with that have put things on social media that shouldn't be out there, whether it's pictures or maybe something from a class or their opinion of another person or whatever it is. Those things happen, and they happen at very young ages. So we do the best to work with parents to work on citizen digital literacy, teaching kids the importance of making good decisions with digital components. In fact, our middle school and high school just had a group of lawyers from KSB Law come and talk to them about digital citizenry and the importance of making good decisions. Don't put things out on internet that you wouldn't want your grandma to see, because it's there permanently. And if you are taking pictures or asking for pictures in inappropriate manners, those are crimes that can be prosecuted in the state of South Dakota. Some kids were shocked to hear that. Like, I'm 17, I shouldn't get in trouble for this. You will be in trouble for this. This is a statute in state law in South Dakota. So we brought some folks in from outside the district to help mom and dad share that message. We wanted to share the message from school. That was a great partnership with KSB Law to bring that to us. I talked a little bit about attendance and truancy. That's become a real concern for our district as well as many others. During COVID, for natural reasons, we had to make decisions about loosening up our attendance policies and encouraging people to stay home more. If you've got any symptoms, you're not feeling good, stay home. That's contrary to what most of us ever wanted to do. I just got a little headache, I'm fine, I'm going to work. Well, now we're telling people, take care of your health. Make sure that you're not bringing something to work with you. Stay home. But unintentional consequences of that are, we've got some students that have bad habits now. They feel like they don't have to be in school. Well, we know that the fact is we can't make really great gains with students unless we get them in front of our great teachers. So we want to put a big light on attendance, have some incentives and keep kids engaged, come to school. But unfortunately, if they get to number 11, which is 11 unexcused absences, then we will be moving forward with truancy charges against the student or their family to help sharpen the debate about what's needed here. We hope that we will have very few of these, but like I mentioned earlier, we've had students in the past that have missed 40 days of school, and lots of people below 40 into 30s or 20s. If you've missed 20 days of school, you've missed a whole month of your 9 months of school, and that will have an impact on your life. And that's our message to folks. We need you in school, and this is going to help you attain what you want in the future. Learning gap caused by COVID and many other things. We've got some work to do to get that taken care of. That's why we continue to offer extra staffing, extra opportunities for summer school opportunities and things like that. And then, of course, as you know, pretty much any society ills ends up in your school district by walking through your doors. And those are challenges, whether it's, some of the things that are related to the workforce shortages or the political division, or if it's just relationship stuff. Kids sometimes have a hard time grasping their place in the world. And so we've got social workers and counselors and other things in place to try to address those needs. So finally, what we're thankful for, to get a chance, and I shouldn't have probably even listed any of them because I might have missed some, but we've got some really, really good partners in this community. And without them, some of the great things that I've mentioned and some of the things that I failed to mention wouldn't happen in our district. Of course, we've got a combination of things with the Sanford Hospital. They help fund our athletic trainer. They come and do staff trainings. They do things with our professional development breakfast with our staff. They're just a big part of what we do. Our Vermillion Public School Foundation has just exploded in the last several years due to our leadership and the team that you saw coming up here. Those folks come and meet, and they get just thousands and thousands of dollars in scholarship opportunities for our kids. They get experiential learning dollars that give kids opportunities to take extra field trips and do things. The Angel Fund is immeasurable, but getting kids shoes or a bus pass to get across town or whatever it might be, food, insecurity, things like that. Our music and athletic boosters do great things for our kids. They raise dollars to give kids opportunities that the district themselves couldn't do. When our kids go down to Disney to sing and perform at Disney, the school doesn't pay for that. The booster clubs do those things for them. When some of our athletic fields were improved at the school district this year, some of that money came from the athletic boosters. So those partnerships were really important for them. Of course, the city works with us for providing services and coming up and helping us out in a pinch. Their parks and rec people help to do many of the things that keep our fields up and going. Our county's the same way. They provide an SRO for us, and they do a lot of things that keep our school going in that right direction. Our Boys and Girls Club, Junior Achievement, the Rotary, you guys donate money and come over there, and we get books for kids, and we do bike helmets. Those things make a difference to those kids. Some of those kids wouldn't have a bike helmet if it wasn't for what you're doing. Some of those kids don't have books at home that when you give them that book and that pair of socks, the Dr. Seuss socks and things like that, those things are fun and they make a difference. Our PTO, of course, the University of South Dakota, we got a ton of partnerships with them from the med school to the dental hygiene to the School of Ed and everything in between. Without the business community supporting all of the fundraisers we do, we wouldn't be able to do them. United Way and the food pantries, we give out sacks every Friday in our district of food bags to go home. Local churches donate a lot of school supplies to us. The fire department, Vermillion PD, UPD, they come up, they practice in our buildings for emergencies every year with us, in hand with our staff, so that they know our buildings, they know where we're gonna be if something goes down. And they take the lead to help make sure that we're safe. Of course, there's so many more. Head Start, Department of Education, the Vermillion Chamber, Development Company, all have a hand in what we do. So thank you to you and them for all the support. Without our great staff, we wouldn't have much to be thankful for. They put in a lot of hours, they work really hard, and they make a difference in kids' lives. We're not perfect, we make mistakes, and we can improve. So don't ever hesitate. If you've got a question or a concern about something, call us. We'd rather have you ask the question and us go, didn't know that was out there, didn't realize that's the perception people have. We want to correct it and get it taken care of versus us not knowing and it just keeps circulating around the community. We want to know about those things. And support of our students and staff, well, we wouldn't be anything if we didn't have them. You heard about golf, you heard about our soccer teams. We had a school play last week. Our tennis team went to state and didn't place, but they did extremely well. 4 years ago, we didn't have kids that went to state in tennis. Now we've got kids that go to state in tennis every year. So that just shows you the things that we're offering, the people that are doing it, and the kids participating, how that makes a difference. So I know I talked a lot. I hope I got something there that you might have found useful. But we're really proud of our people in our schools. We're really proud to be part of the community. And I'd love to take some questions from people if there's something there that you have.
With the doubling in the size of, you lost 67 seniors and gained 135 first years. Are you going to have enough space in the high school? Are you going to have to look at expansion of the high school?
We took over 2 new rooms this year that we had given. We used to have a tanager takeout food pantry in the high school. And on Fridays, kids would have an opportunity to go to that. That had moved out this summer to the United Way just because of some practical reasons that they had for supply chain stuff. Well, they liked it so much at the United Way, they ended up staying, which freed up a classroom for us. So yes, we're pretty tight, but I hope we don't lose the number of freshmen that we typically lose, but we very rarely graduate over 100 kids. So even when our classes are at 100, we'll graduate 67. If we're at 115, we'll graduate 95. We just don't ever keep the kids all the way through. Over half the kids that start with us don't finish with us. So I'd love to hope that we're talking 132 graduates in a few years, but I don't think it's going to be there. Yeah.
So looking at your budget pie chart, the 51% property and 37% state and 13% federal and the rest broken up otherwise. Do you know how that compares to neighboring states or neighboring communities?
Neighboring communities would be very similar because the state funding formula for South Dakota is balanced between the state and your local effort. If your community can produce more effort, they're going to take and let you do that, and the state's going to give you less. Most states most schools would be around, let's say 48% property taxes, 40% state, 45% state, and a little bit less in federal perhaps. It's a little bit closer. The fact that we're off by 15, 16 points there is actually kind of abnormal for us. It's usually a little closer and tighter. The other states are funded completely different, so I couldn't really give you a fair assessment of that. But most of our people around here would be very close to 48 to 52% of their local effort would be local property taxes.
Any last questions for Dr. Alvey? One more. At the new school, was there some footings poured in the wrong place?
Remember those 700 aggregate piers I was telling you about? The 700 divots? They were off by 1 foot. So they had to come in and put 700 more aggregate piers in beside them. The construction manager's at risk and the aggregate pier company, that's their bill to foot. So, remember the old adage, measure twice, cut once? That'd be good. And how that happened is there was civil engineering plans that had a building imposed on it. Then there's structural engineering plans that had the building on it. The company ended up using the civil engineering plans, which wasn't the one you should be building from. You always go to your structural engineering. But the problem is you got 15 guys that are drawing plans for these types of things. Fortunately for us, they caught it, and they realized what they needed to do to correct it, and it doesn't cost us anything. Unfortunately, it cost us about a week of footings time. We were supposed to be putting in footings this week. So But they said we could probably build a skyscraper on this place now, so there's some silver linings. So. All right, thanks.